My name is Robert Harrison. I'm an occupational health doctor. I work at the University of California, San Francisco. I diagnose and treat work and environmentally related diseases and injuries. The average adult needs between 7 and 9 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. It's a misconception that a person can store up rest or sleep, can compensate, that I can work or a person can work very long hours or a night shift and then just go home and somehow make it up or compensate. When somebody's driving and they haven't had enough sleep, or they've worked a night shift, or they're rotating shifts over the course of the week, that person will be less alert on the road, will be less likely to respond to sudden changes in road conditions, in traffic, and that leads to an increased risk of motor vehicle accidents. So for example, if I didn't sleep last night because I was working, and I have to drive home, my ability to drive is impaired. In fact, loss of sleep can be as severe as drinking, as alcohol.
I'm a camera assistant with Local 600. I've been a camera assistant since 1989.
I love it. I have a passion for it. Back when it was film, it was nostalgia and romance that brought me into it. I can't imagine doing anything else. It's what defines me.
A crew is also an extension of someone's family. When you work 16 hours a day with somebody for 5-6 days straight in a row, and the people you work with become so special to you. And I love what I do, but I also love the people I work with.
I love my job. I love my set family, which I would call. I love the people that I get to meet every day, the experiences, the locations.
In 1997, I was working on second unit of a feature in San Pedro.
I was an assistant for 17 years before I was a camera operator. And I remember doing longer days on single camera episodic and sometimes on features. And you'd be at the studio or on location and you'd be putting in a 72 hour,
85 hours.
A series of 3 16-hour days.
I think the shortest day on that movie was around 14-hour days.
We were working, I believe it was our third week of shooting.
We had just worked a 16-hour day.
And it was probably 90% handheld. We're shooting in a downtown location.
We didn't have a lunch break, so it was very little rest throughout the workday.
I think we probably worked until probably 3 o'clock that morning.
I have a feeling it was one of the longest days we had.
And it was that kind of pilot where you're just trying to cram everything in, and that's okay. I mean, I understand that.
On the third or fourth week, when it came time, I would say lunchtime on Wednesday or trying to get up on Thursday, my brain would just feel like it was short-circuiting.
We've gotten quite a bit of housing for myself and for the rest of the rigging and shooting crew for the shoot, but not for this location because this location was close to home.
I did have the option of a hotel that night, and because I felt okay, I just went home.
Sometimes people do need to go home and they do need to tend to their families or they have responsibilities at home.
I wanted to see my family. I wanted to see my kids.
I remember my son, who was 20 years old at the time, was working background. And I thought, well, if I get really tired, perhaps he can drive home.
It was a Saturday night and I was driving home.
On a Friday night, I was driving home from work.
Maybe 3 or 4 miles south of our home.
The stretch of highway that I was on, it's not a typical stretch in Boston where there's a lot of street lights and a lot of cars.
I don't know exactly at what point I felt sleepy.
And I guess he fell asleep at the wheel for just a split second.
And another mile and a half later, my body shut down.
The fatigue took over.
I remember getting the exit from my house.
There was no warning. There was no nodding off.
After that, I can't remember much of anything.
My body just shut down.
And I crashed my SUV into a telephone pole.
And we hit the median on the freeway and ricocheted back into lanes.
I was asleep at the wheel, 55 miles an hour, down Lynn Road and went into a tree.
And I instantly woke up and I asked, what happened? You fall asleep? He said, yeah. As he's trying to right the car and not let it roll, he said, yeah, I fell asleep.
I felt a big hit. I knew I hit something, and I immediately knew I was into an accident.
Before you knew it, I was standing outside of my truck, looking at the dirt, wondering why I was standing in mud.
I woke up in my driver's side seat, and I got out of the car and I looked up and I actually crashed my car 2 blocks away from my house.
I had no recollection of falling asleep or rear-ending the dump truck that was in the breakdown lane.
I knew I had hit somebody really hard, and once I looked back, there was a car that was completely flipped.
And there was damage to the vehicle, really couldn't be driven, but it could have been much worse.
I just started running towards the corner to see if I could help, even though I was in physical pain. Fortunately, they pulled him out and he was walking.
It could have been much, much worse. We're lucky that we're alive.
My car was totaled. Basically, the whole front driver's side corner got pushed in.
The engine was underneath the driver's seat.
The front bumper was almost in the back seat.
The state trooper called an ambulance for me. They put me in the back of the ambulance. They sent me to the local hospital.
When I got home, my wife was already awake. I thought it was just going to be, oh, look, I'm fine. But no, she was not. She was mad at me. And then after like 5 minutes, she just broke down and started crying.
So this was on a Wednesday, and then my best boy, 2 days later, also crashed.
I think she realized that I could have lost my life, and then she would have been by herself with my 2 kids.
You know, I told the story the next day on set about what happened, and the producers were concerned. But, you know, I always wonder, why do we ever let it get that far?
I think it comes down to budgets.
I understand that everything has to do with money.
But when the AD confidentially leans over and tells you this is a scheduled 16-hour day, why is it a scheduled 16-hour day?
If you're lucky, it's a 12-hour day.
And then, 16, 18 hours later, you're getting off of work and you didn't plan to have someone babysit your children.
If you work a 16-hour day, you should have more time off between the next work shift.
If the budget doesn't work, if you just schedule an additional 8-hour day on top of the 12, maybe we could do some of those other things that we chopped off of the other day.
It doesn't matter, if you're above the line or below the line. It affects every single human being that's working on a show.
I've always told people, if this was a 10-hour job year-round, it would be the best job anybody can wish for.
I really do get a kick out of the stuff that we do. Yeah, I'm part of a project, but I'm also part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. I want to see a safer industry as a whole for everybody.
I keep a picture of my Bronco on my phone just in case I'm working for a production company that doesn't want to put me up in a hotel. Pretty much solves it immediately.